Okay, so this is an introduction to the podcast. Now, you may be seeing this on YouTube because recording videos. Some of this is going to be brand new information for you as well, and for people listening to the podcast that are not already accustomed or knowledgeable about what I've been doing on YouTube, then this is new information. Whatever. We're just going to do an overview. But this is an introduction, first and foremost, to the podcast, how I arrived at creating the podcast, what the podcast is going to be about, and the format of things, or lack thereof of format, and how things are going to proceed. So, I've decided on the name Artist Personal Journalist. So, first off, I guess we'll go back a little bit. I've wanted to do a podcast for years, ever since I knew what a podcast was and started listening to podcasts. Even before I really started listening to podcasts, like probably since... maybe 2012, maybe like 2015, for sure whatever. So around then, I was like, oh yeah, like we should make a podcast. It definitely was probably around 2014, 2015. Anyway, so I talked with a friend at the time and was just like, yeah, maybe we could do like an art one, whatever. We never did it. I kept having this impression of things holding me back, like, well, but then we need like mics, and then we need this and that, and like we need to do it like really, really good. So we have to like get all this stuff, and it was just a lot of anxiety about it, and then I never did anything with it and just moved on, listened to podcasts, enjoyed them, and never created anything of my own. So then comes along to, I've been in Lethbridge for 2.5 years now. I've been riding my mountain bike a bunch. I was like, man, I really want to, I stop sometimes and like share photos of the scenery, but I really wanted to share these rides with like friends and family and just the beautiful stuff that I see. And then also in that time, I had been watching John Hicks. He lives in LA. He does BMX. He is first and foremost, I think, a vlogger that just happens to do a lot of BMX, and so a lot of his content is bike related. But anyway, so I really enjoyed when he actually spoke to us, I guess the viewer, in a different way, when I got to learn more of his personal stuff, which is very few and far between, because I don't think his bulk audience is interested in that. But those are the things I really enjoyed. And back in the day, there was like Kev Jumba and some other vloggers that I really enjoyed their content, not always like funny, but sometimes when it got to be the personal. I just like that kind of element, biographical or autobiographical elements to media, to like, whether it's books or video documentary or whatever, or in this case vlogging. So those things kind of like came together, and I was like, you know what, like I'm gonna get a GoPro at Christmas time, and I'm gonna start recording these videos. And I was doing all these other things, thinking about like my anxiety and mortality and things, and being like leaving legacy. And so there is I believe it's the very first video that I made on my FK Arts channel that is an introduction, and it talks about like, this is what I think this project is going to be about. I kind of am considering this art, but maybe it's just not art, maybe it's just whatever, and that kind of explained it. I don't remember how long it is. It couldn't be that long, but whatever, I can spin a yarn. So that kind of explained the beginning of the video project, and just like creating vlogs and having conversations with myself on camera, having conversations with others on camera, filming my bike rides, my art process. I filmed that and put that online, just like making a piece, and you can see how the piece is made. So there's definitely some rants and stuff that I do, or did, I guess. There's just a bunch of things. I have a weekly vlog and then a conversation piece. I review things too, like albums that are really important to me, or movies that just came out or I just saw. So it just kind of kept growing. And then I have this thing, which on YouTube, it's on this playlist, Behind the Curtain, because I wanted to talk about how is documenting all this, how is filming this stuff and posting it affecting maybe my daily life, or how am I changing things? What are the things I'm thinking about when I'm doing this? Because it does affect things the way that on a daily basis, I just do things a little bit different now, because I'm like, oh, should I have my GoPro with me or not? If I do have it with me, blah, 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 what am I going to do? Okay, so that's all kind of background. Again, if you are a new listener who does not know who I am, or a new audience or whatever, if you don't know anything about me and you're listening to this in a podcast, I'm really curious as to how you found it, and even more curious if you'll stick around, because this is, like I said, I've wanted to do a podcast for a really long time about art and stuff, because that takes up so much of my life, and I just never did it. And then my friend Laura Lee and I finally got together and did it. Like, I think she was just tired of waiting around for me to get over my mental, like, barricades that I put up as to how difficult it was going to be, and I wasn't ready yet, and I didn't have time to invest in. I really wanted to do it right. And so she started her own, and then immediately as she did that, I was like, hey, let's do it. And then in one day, like, we figured everything out, and then we like recorded this episode and stuff. So now that is a weekly podcast called Artist Life. It is out every Tuesday morning. I believe I have it set at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. But anyway, there is a YouTube channel that accompanies that. There's a Facebook page. There's an Instagram page, all under Artist Life Podcast. But if you're just searching for the podcast in an app, it is just called Artist Life. And we just take different themes. So far we've talked about conceptual art. I mean, we had an introduction as well just to us as artists and what we do. But we talked about conceptual art. We talked about artists' relationship with their environment. Most recently we talked about... what did we talk about? It's not even up yet. I haven't edited it yet, and now I can't remember what we talked about. But we filmed the 3rd episode the other day, so there's a YouTube channel for that, but it's also a podcast. That, I really want to reach a lot of people. That is going to reach a lot of strangers, I think, that have already been checking out. We've been kind of like posting it on different like Instagram hashtags that are related to that episode, and some people are checking it out from different places around the world, Denmark and Germany and whatever. So it's slowly kind of, I don't want to say growing, but it's reaching people slowly, but that's a thing. But I wanted to have a personal one too. However, the main thing about the Artist Life podcast is that it is what I want in a podcast. I don't really need to make a personal one, is what I was thinking. However, this is how this came to be. So I was posting all these videos. I'm still posting all these videos and working on that and kind of fine-tuning what I want to do with that. And I've been doing that since, like, week 0 was the last week in December. So that's when the videos start. And that's going to be the format for how I'm going to label things on the podcast as well. In the episode description, it'll say week 0, week 1, week 2. Right now, I am on week 30. So my intention is to have... I'm getting ahead of myself. So anyway, the thing is that I have some, like... The videos sometimes reach strangers depending on what I use for tags and what the title is and how timely and relevant it is. But for the most part, it's friends and family that look at that. Like, I think I have an average of like 16, 17 views a week on a vlog. And then other stuff is up and down depending on what the content is. So a lot of friends and family are mostly checking that out. And I've had more than one person come to me and say, like, those videos where you just talk, like for an hour, because sometimes I do that in what I call a conversation. I just talk to myself or talk to the camera out loud by myself a lot of the time and try to like figure something out. I have a subject. I'm like just going on and on and on about it, trying to figure it out. What would be external processing, I guess, which is a term that, as maybe a buzzword as it is, I feel like it accurately describes what I've been doing and what really helps me. And that's, sometimes writing things, sometimes creating things, but either way, talking verbally helps more than anything because my words get out faster than I have time to filter them through my brain. So I start to say things that I didn't even know I was feeling or thinking. They just come out. So that's why I love having conversations with people. I've always known that's why. And then when I started doing the vlog, I was like, whoa, when I have conversations by myself, I'm actually getting a lot out of that still, and I'm figuring things out and learning about myself just by talking to the camera. So I had some people say, if you just extracted the audio from that and put it into a podcast format, I would listen to them. But I can't just like stare at my phone on YouTube for an hour or whatever. Like, I can't close YouTube unless you get like premium or whatever. Like, I can't close the app and have the app still playing. And it's just like you're just sitting in a room talking to the camera, which some people can do. Like, I can do that. I can watch someone just talk to the camera for an hour and just do that, even if it's not super exciting. Like, this isn't like, crazy exciting right now, right? But some people were like interested in the things I was saying, but they just couldn't have it on YouTube for that hour. So that's why I'm really curious if you are a stranger that I don't know that you're listening to this podcast. That's tight. Like, that's cool. I hope that you check more things out. Things are going to be all over the place, but that's why I'm doing this introduction. And also to kind of let people know how this is going to go. People that already watch the YouTube videos and are now going to subscribe to the podcast, and that way they can listen that way. So I'm not expecting, and I'm not going to be pushing to put this out into, like, getting new listeners. Like, I would love that if that happened, and when there's a really relevant opportunity, I might try and put that out there on social media, and see if I can get some people interested. But really, this is just about me. Like, that's what, my YouTube channel is already. It's just about me. So this even more so. Like, this is not going to be separate from the YouTube channel. That's the other thing I need to say, is that I'm going to take those conversations that I'm posting and just rip the MP3, like just take the audio, separate it from the video, extract it, and upload that by itself into this podcast format. So that it's going to be, it's just that. I'm not making any content specifically for the podcast. Even this right now, I'm filming it and I'm posting it on YouTube, and it's going to be introduction to the podcast. So there's nothing that's going to be new. If you watch the YouTube videos, you are not missing anything at all. If you are listening to the podcast, maybe you want to check out the videos for whatever reason. I don't know, but there's more content on YouTube than there ever will be in the podcast, because a lot of what I do is visual. So I'm not going to post my vlogs, because that's weird to listen to me. You don't even know what's happening. I'm I'm not describing things or having a conversation. I'm just going out and about and shooting what's happening in my day to day. I'm not going to post any what I call raw rides. Those are the ones where I go out and do mountain biking. So obviously, I'm not going to post that. The art process videos where I'm creating art, I just have music in the background, and then you see my process in creating. I'm not going to post those either. So mainly what I'm posting is the conversations, the story times, and sometimes I think I will do reviews as well, because some of those reviews are very personal to me. I don't know if I'll do all the reviews, but I think those are the main things, and the conversations are really the main thing. Now, one thing that I talked about in a previous vlog was that I'm going to stop doing rants. I didn't say it's for sure 100%, but I may as well address that in this podcast introduction as well, because I was doing these rants every week where I would just go off on this topic, so it was less organized. Well, my conversations aren't organized anyway. None of this is really organized, just to tell you now, spoiler, that I just kind of have a loose idea in my head and just talk. And with the rants, they were a little shorter than conversations generally. It was usually me being upset about something and just going off, and it wasn't really about me exploring myself. It was just man, I hate when people do this thing. Polite drivers are actually really bad drivers. They give you the right of way, and that's not how things should work, and they gum up the works and things like that. That was actually a topic I addressed for 7 or 10 minutes or whatever it was once about impolite drivers. There's other things where I started to combine oh, this is not a 2-cent rant, this is not a conversation, it's kind of both, so I called it a 2-cent conversation. And I just realized, you know what, I don't need to be obligated or slave to having these different segments and formats and playlists. And that when I was thinking, what am I going to rant about this week? Because sometimes they just come to me and I have so many, and other times, recently, I've just been you know what, I could have a real conversation about this topic instead of having a rant. I could really explore this idea, and if I'm not going to really explore this idea, maybe it's not worth having. So I kind of stopped doing them, it's not worth, having the rant. So that's kind of where I'm at. I thought it was just more of a healthy choice for where I'm at right now. In saying that, this is really important. I am front-loading this thing, and maybe I should have said this at the beginning, but too late. We're 13 minutes in, you probably stopped listening anyway. Okay, so what's important is that, like I said, I'm on week 30 right now of my vlogs and all the videos that I create. So this introduction is the first episode of this podcast. What will come next, and I will have it in the description. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, past episode or before podcast. I don't know what to call it yet. But the thing is that I am going to upload all of those past videos that I made. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The conversation pieces especially. Some of the story times that talk about my graffiti and things like that. Some of the reviews. So there will be things that I am uploading into the podcast right away. So it's gonna end up having I don't even know what 60-ish maybe episodes in the next week or so. Just boom, boom, boom. They're just gonna go up, and that's all old stuff. So the reason why this isn't behind the curtain section of my YouTube playlists is because I know that having to keep in mind while I'm making a video, a conversation, keeping that in mind for the podcast. It will change how things work from now on. It won't change them a lot. Maybe no one else will notice any difference, but I will. And I'm going to try to keep that in mind while I'm making videos, that yes, this is going to be an audio thing. So that will affect how my process kind of works a little bit. And it won't start until what I'm saying is week 31. So until next week, it won't really start, possibly week 32. But like I said, in the description, I will have a thing being I should have thought about the acronym before I started this, but something that says previous to podcast or something like or like retro episode. How about that? We'll just call it like retro episodes. That will be in the description in the podcast. And once it stops saying retro episodes, there won't be any more. It'll all be from the present on, which I'm guessing will be, I mean, what are we now? That'll be mid-August when they'll start to be, okay, all the episodes from now on are brand new. The YouTube video is going to go up, the podcast is going to go up at the same time. I do not have a specific date that I will be putting these up, because unlike the Artist Life podcast, it's not one a week. I'm just, whenever I have a conversation, I do it. Whenever I have a rant, or not a rant probably, but a review, I'll do it. Whenever I have a story, I'll do it, and then I will post it. So it's going to be sporadic. It's not the best thing when you have a podcast or anything, including YouTube videos, to just have them be all over the place, but that's what I do with those because I make more than one a week. So that's the bulk of what I needed to say to introduce this thing. Now, to go to the title, Artist, Personal Journalist, I still exist as an artist with almost everything that I do. I mean, just like that's just what is my most defining label or characteristic, and obviously I like that label. That's why I'm using it. But even when I'm analyzing myself, like I went through a couple different things of what am I going to call this thing, like external processor or something. But a lot of what I do, I mean, I attribute my artist sensibilities to how I process the world, right? Like just things that I believe characterize an artist, I believe characterize me, or that I fit into that box or whatever. And so that's just this defining character of me, I think, is an artist. I wouldn't say I'm a mountain biker. Like, no, I'm an artist who mountain bikes, or I'm an artist who writes. I mean, but to me, that's part of art, is writing. I mean, the term artist for me is a very large umbrella, and a lot of things fit under that, whether it's photography and other visual arts to music, dance, writing, philosophy to me is an art form. So anyway, the personal journalist part is just the fact that I don't write journals, but these conversations that I have are happening at a certain time in my life, and I think that this is a kind of way of chronicling that. Like the vlogs are more of like a journal in a way of like, this is what I did this week. I went out and did this, that, and the other thing, and some of those things will be insignificant years from now on. Other things I'll remember for maybe the rest of my life. But it's also a nod to Sage Francis, because he's my favorite rapper, and he's got an album called Personal Journals, and it was the first album of his that I really, 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 well, it was the first one I was exposed to. And it was, when I go back in the catalog, that's still one of the first ones where I'm like, yeah, this is the Sage Francis that I like, this era. And from there, going into Healthy Distrust and other albums that I really enjoy, Human the Death Dance, which is my favorite, and then, Life and what have you, Copper Gone. So, yeah, nod to Sage Francis because I love him as an artist. I love he's just seems like a stand-up quality human that I had the fortunate experience of meeting once. Anyway, so that is why it's titled Artist Personal Journals, because that's what I feel like I'm kind of creating in a way. And also, I got to give the nod to Sage Francis, and I really think that's all that there is to say. I feel like this introduction was already too long. If you have questions, please let me know. Everything is going to be, I'm not going to make like a separate thing for this, because Artist Life, because it's a joint effort between me and someone else, and it seemed like really appropriate, we have a separate email, artistlifepodcast@gmail.com. We have this, Instagram, Artist Life Podcast, Facebook, Artist Life Podcast, the YouTube channel, Artist Life Podcast. You can reach us at any of those things. All my stuff is still under the umbrella of FK Arts. So the YouTube video, the YouTube channel is still FK Arts, where I'm posting all this stuff. My Facebook is FK Arts. My Instagram is FK space arts, or underscore arts or whatever, or dot arts. Can't even remember my own thing right now. And I have an email address that is fk.artists@gmail.com. So if you want to reach out for any possible reason, you can do that through my social media. I'm not having a specific platform devoted to just the podcast when it comes to social media. It's all going to happen through FK Arts. I'll be talking about the podcast there. The videos will happen. My visual art will happen there. Photography, everything. Yeah, that's it. So that is the beginning of Artist Personal Journalist. That was a